Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Wellness by Design today. So excited. I'm always excited whenever I've got a guest. Really happy to have Hanna Crum here of Kombucha Kamp to talk to you about kombucha. She's a kombucha expert. And also, really surprising thing I learned from Hanna is that it's not just for drinking. All right, so let me read Hanna's bio. She says, this is a personal voice of Hanna. My first glimpse of kombucha came when my college friends from my college friend's kitchen. I wasn't able to try hers because it wasn't quite done yet, but that magical blob had me running to the nearest Whole Foods to purchase my first bottle. My love for this mystical brew outgrew my budget, so I decided to start making it myself. Once I found out how good kombucha makes me feel, I went all in on providing cultures and education to others who wanted to make their own. Fast forward 20 years. Yes, she's been doing this for 20 years. And now I'm a master brewer at several restaurants in LA. I'm the president and founder of the nonprofit Kombucha Brewers International, contributing author on multiple publications and owner of Kombucha Kamp since 2004, and author of the big book of kombucha, about all things kombucha there. So Hanna, welcome. So excited to have you here.
Thanks, Jane. So excited to be here. And yes, I first discovered kombucha at my friend's kitchen, and we didn't even try it. And so, but that word kombucha is so interesting. It stuck in my mind that when I went to the local Whole Foods here in Los Angeles, of course, they had shelves full of it. And so I grabbed a ginger ale off the shelf and I cracked it open. I took my first sip. What was your first sip like, Jane?
Oh, it was lovely because it was bubbly. I love bubbly drinks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, though, their first sip is like, oh, what is this? Because kombucha is an acetic acid ferment like vinegar. And so it has a little tang to it. But for me, I was like, oh, the heavens opened up and the angels were singing. And this because I was sad. I was standard American diet. I wasn't getting any enzymes. I wasn't getting any living foods in my body. And so my body was just like, yes, this is amazing. And like you said, my thirst outgrew my budget. And because I'd seen their blob in a jar, I was like, well, why don't I figure this out? And even though I wasn't much of a cook, which I think is a testament to how easy it is to brew kombucha, because you do not have to be an expert in the kitchen. If you can brew a cup of tea, you can brew kombucha. So literally, we're talking about boiling water here, friends. I promise you, it's not that difficult. And yes, it's led me on this amazing journey. So while I didn't come to kombucha because I had a specific health concern, like a lot of people do, I found that it quickly helped me heal in a lot of different ways. So first of all, it helped improve my digestion. So it really got the engine running, got everything flowing properly. And as a result of that, my skin cleared up, right? So our skin sort of reflects what's going on inside of us.
Absolutely.
And that was an awesome side effect. And I'm very grateful that continues to be an awesome side effect. And then, it was like layers of an onion. So as, different things would improve, then something else would come to the surface, and then that would sort of be gently released. And part of that is because kombucha is a powerful detoxifier. So not only is it a probiotic beverage, not only does it have enzymes and organic acids in a living form, but those acids specifically support a healthy liver. And our liver is that filter that's filtering out any sort of toxins that might get into the bloodstream. And so think about your liver being all gunked up because we're overexposed to toxins. Now here's something that's going to come and help to gently clean that filter, so that way your body starts to feel a lot better.
I love that it's a healthful food, and we'll talk a little bit more about that afterwards. And I just want to say, for anyone that's watching live, or if you're watching the replay and have questions, go ahead and put them, or comments, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'd love to answer them. So let's talk about that blob. The blob.
Yes.
A lot of people may be familiar with buying kombucha, but maybe they don't know about making it, what this blob is all about. And I love, there's a picture in your, I saw of you on one of your channels, and you're holding this big blob. So let's talk about that blob, what it is and why we need it to brew kombucha.
Absolutely. So that's what we call a SCOBY. SCOBY, not Scooby. A lot of people like to call it a Scooby-Doo. A SCOBY, that's an acronym. So it stands for Symbiotic Culture of Bacteria and Yeast. And the
Mhm.
term was invented in the 90s so that we could distinguish between kombucha, the beverage, and kombucha, the culture we use to make the beverage. And so it looks kind of like a white rubbery pancake. Another old term for kombucha was kombucha mushroom. And that's there are no mushrooms involved, so don't worry if you're sensitive to mushrooms. There's no mushrooms here. It is fungus, right? Yeast is a fungus. Mushrooms are fungus, but they're not mycelium, right? So they're in the family, but they're not exactly the same thing. But if we think about ancient man, before we even had a microscope or anything to understand what was going on at that level where we can't see what's going on, they just saw this like white cap that would cover the brew, and it looked like a mushroom cap. And so that's why it was called a kombucha mushroom, but there's no mushrooms. So what that does though is the bacteria excrete cellulose from their cell walls. So they're just like think of a silkworm, or it's just like this pill looking thing with all these nanofibers stretching out from it, and it connects with other ones, and it creates this, another term for it is zooglea, which means living skin. And
Oh,
so this skin is like a defense mechanism. So not only is it porous and allows oxygen to come into the brew, which is necessary for the fermentation process, it acts like a lid. So it's also protecting it from being invaded by harmful organisms from outside of the brew. So it's this
oh.
really lovely way in which the yeast um, eats the sugar and creates byproducts that then the bacteria consume. And so they're each sort of mutually feeding the other. They're creating
Mm.
this diverse yet robust community where everyone gets a chance to thrive, and they're keeping the bad guys out, so to speak.
No wonder it's called symbiotic. They're helping each other out.
Exactly right. And even though it's symbiotic though, we the humans are the steward of the balance. And so while it's easy to make kombucha, there are a couple little, tips and tricks so that way we keep that balance steady. So for example, when we go to make our next batch, we take out our SCOBY. There's a mother and a daughter. And then we immediately take our starter liquid off the top of the brew where it's bacteria rich. See, I like to demonstrate. That's because the yeast, while they hover around the surface initially, when they're done, they're going to flocculate or fall to the bottom of the jar. And so if we were to drain everything and only use the yeasty dregs, right? We've all seen that. Like even sometimes a beer bottle will have a little bit of yeast at the bottom and things like that. Well, what happens is that'll quickly throw our yeast bacteria balance out of balance, and that will lead to off flavors. And that's why we're always sort of taking that liquid off first. It's kind of like, I like to think of it as an offering. Take out the mother and daughter, we take out a little liquid for them, like a little honoring, and then the rest is ours to drink because we want that yeast in our bottles to get the bubbles that you love so much.
Oh, yeah, I love it. It reminded me, it's so funny. I love the way you're using your hands and talking, and people that are listening to the podcast won't see that, but Hannah's a lot of fun and she's very visual with her hands. So we're seeing her like scooping off and making these offerings. I love that, by the way, the offering, making an offering, the mother and the daughter. So are there ever sons or are they always daughters?
You know, it's all relative, right? Sure.
Son or daughter, doesn't matter.
Yes, exactly
Offspring.
how you want it. That's
Okay.
exactly right. Yes.
Now, I know my daughter and some friends of mine have brewed kombucha before, and I know that they seem to get like tons of scobies. They keep building up and they're giving them away. So they keep, every time you brew, does it make another daughter?
It does. And so I call this abundance in action. Like there are so
Mm.
many life lessons I've received from brewing kombucha that I feel anybody can enjoy it. And so of course, first is process, right? Everything in life that's worth having takes a little time, right? I know we're sort of programmed to want that instant gratification or the magic pill, the one thing, right? But as we know, as we continue to be reminded of, there is no one thing and there is no shortcut to healing and things like that. And so, but one of the other lessons I've learned from kombucha is abundance in action. And if you give an organism what it needs to thrive, it will. And that
Beautiful.
counts for humans too, right? Like
Hmm.
at any point, we can say, you know what, I'm going to let go. Right. So we talk about swap your soda and drink kombucha for 30 days, our 30-day kombucha challenge. Like at any moment, you can make that decision. I get it. It's hard. There's like emotions, but literally these tiny little actions can add up, and we can start to have an immediate effect on our bodies and really shift where we're at. So at any moment we can sort of take back control. And that's what I love about kombucha is it's a small thing that we can add that's going to have an immediate and palpable effect. And
Hmm.
that over time is going to yield a really positive result. And if you're buying it at the store first, like I did, and then you're finding, you know what, I need more of this in my life, but it's a little expensive in the pocketbook. We're bacteria farmers. We've got kits, we've got cultures, we've got education, we got supplies. Like, you're going to be fully supported. If you come to Kombucha Camp, we can help you out with all of that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, let's talk about if you're not making your own and you were just starting out, and I don't know, I may have people in my audience that are making it already. I may have some people that I haven't even heard of it before. And so they may be just going to try buying it first. So what are some things to look for when you're buying kombucha? And I've seen it, like, even I live in Corner Brook, Newfoundland, and we don't have a lot of like out there kind of things, but we can even get kombucha here. So it's available in a lot of places.
It is. So I always recommend try your farmer's market first, because if you have a small local producer, that's a typical place that they're going to be. Plus, you can usually sample their brew before you buy. So that way, you know if you like their flavor profile. So we're looking for balance between sweet and sour. So if we're going for a commercial brand, you want to find something that says raw, unpasteurized, typically, because that's going to have more of those living nutrients and enzymes that you're going to want. Now, there are pasteurized and from concentrate versions out there, and those are always still going to be a better choice than, say, an energy drink or a Gatorade or something like that. But if you're wanting to get that sort of full kombucha experience, you do want to try to find that raw, unpasteurized, and then pick a flavor that resonates with you. Ginger is the most popular flavor of kombucha. Humans and ginger have a really happy relationship. We've been enjoying it since we discovered it, which I don't know when that was, but what I was going to say is before Prohibition, ginger beer, which is a fermented ginger drink, was the most popular beverage. And then that, of course, transitioned into ginger ale, the soda, because after
Yeah.
Prohibition, we couldn't have alcohol. And now there's also things like ginger bug, but ginger in your kombucha is just, it's going to help with the digestion, give you the B vitamins.
Mm.
But there's lots of like fruity flavors or herbal flavors. So that said, if you try one and you're finding the flavor doesn't resonate with you, try another one, because they
Yeah.
all have such a different flavor profile. And I mean, even try one from a different brand, because that is going to show you the different styles with which they're brewing.
Are there any ingredients, Hannah, that we should look for and say, no, don't get that one?
Well, it's so challenging because, I have a very different philosophy about sugar than maybe most people do these days. I understand the trend is like no sugar, reduce sugar, don't want added sugar. And that can be confusing when looking at a kombucha label, because we use sugar in our primary fermentation. While what we're measuring at the end is the sugar remaining, so it's only residual sugar, not the sugar we started with, we still have to put that number under added sugars. And so people might be confused thinking, oh, well, they're adding all this sugar to the kombucha. No, we're not. This is just how the FDA rules are written. We have to put it in added sugars, even if it's from the initial part of the process. So that said,
Mm.
the sugar is actually pre-fermented. It's digested. It's broken from that disaccharide sucrose molecule, which is we all know as table sugar, into fructose and glucose, which have a lower glycemic impact. So again, none of that is reflected on the current labels. Now, I personally am not a fan of things like stevia and monk fruit. That's just my personal preference. And typically, if you're finding kombuchas that have those ingredients, it usually means one of two things. It likely means that it was made from concentrate. So while at Kombucha Brewers International, the trade association I'm president of, we have a code of practice and we advocate for transparency, we're not a regulatory body. And so that means each brand is deciding how they're communicating on their labels. And
Mm.
so this is a little like way in to sort of understand what they might be doing as a process. So if you see stevia or monk fruit, it's likely that it could be from concentrate, especially if the first ingredient listed is water, right? Because if it's from
Uh,
concentrate, where it's going to mostly have water, because it will have been fermented to the point where it's a vinegar, and now we're diluting it with water and adding a few things to make it more palatable.
Interesting. That is so interesting because I remember seeing kombuchas with added sugar and I was like, well, not having that. So I had no idea that the labeling and how they have to label, it's really interesting and confusing for the buyers. So I'm really
Very
glad you
confusing.
brought that up. Let's talk about now, you've mentioned a little bit about the health benefits and how it can help you. So let's kind of dive into that a little bit deeper. What are the health benefits of kombucha?
Yeah, absolutely. So the top 3 are going to be improves digestion.
Yep.
Gives energy because there are B vitamins present in the yeast, and just makes me feel good. So, which is that ineffable quality of like, how do you measure that? How do you define that? Right? That's going to be unique to each person. But where those are coming from are from the components of the kombucha. So since we haven't mentioned it yet, kombucha is fermented tea. So tea is Camellia sinensis. It's a plant we're all incredibly familiar with. Wars have been fought over it. And it has an amazing array of health benefits, from the polyphenols to the antioxidants to the vitamin C. And anytime we exert fermentation on a substrate, in this case being the tea and sugar, it's going to increase the nutritional value of those foods. So not only are we pre-digesting and breaking down things that might be more difficult for our body to process, such as the sugar in that sucrose form, we're also going to be creating byproducts that are better for us. And so I really think of fermentation as digestion that's happening outside of the body, right? So things are, they're pre-digested. It's easier for our bodies to absorb. Our microbes can instantly uptake those nutrients. And so while we might not see massive numbers of, vitamin C and these B vitamins, because they're present in that living form, your body knows exactly what to do with them.
I love it. And, I started off this whole health journey because I had joint pain. And along the way, I realized that joint pain was actually connected to an inflamed gut, right? So I didn't even have digestive problems, but it was reflecting out as joint pain, and problems with the digestion show up in so many ways. Your skin, it can be joint pain. It can be, psoriasis. It can be brain fog. It can be anxiety. All of these things are related to gut health. So something like kombucha can help improve the gut because of the probiotics and the other good things going in there, right? So lots of people don't necessarily know that or make the connection between the gut health and things that seem so unrelated. But, most of our immune system is in our gut. So most inflammation begins in the gut.
Exactly right. Well, and I think of the gut as the first brain. I realize that's
It
different from
is. Yeah.
how most people think of it. I mean, the
Yeah.
brain and the gut are made from the same tissue in the fetus, and then
Yeah.
it striates, it specificates or differentiates into the unique organs. But then it has just as many, if not more, neurotransmitters in your gut. And, I used to think there was like a pharmacy in my brain making all my little happy chemicals. No, it's in your gut.
Absolutely.
And so when we go to the gut and when we focus, we really are a temple. And so if we honor our bodies as a temple, as a place that's sacred, that, nothing shall pass that hasn't been, whether that's blessed or intentioned or thought about, or, again, you find the practice that works for you, but the more that conscious we are about what we're putting into our bodies, as opposed to that mindless, eating on the go and hurry up and shovel it in, and, which we've been, again, programmed to respond to, that allows our bodies to slow down, really absorb the nutrients. And what you find is you actually eat less, and you extract more from the foods you're putting into your body.
Yeah. Oh, Hannah, you and I are on the same page with conscious eating, and not just what you eat, but also how you eat, how you feel about what you're putting into your body. And then it does make you see things differently, so that you want to honor your body, honor this temple with things that I talk about, the words being worthy of you, having what's worthy of you. So this is being a drink that is has all these health benefits and flavorful and fun and bubbly, makes it such a win on so many levels, right? So I love all that. So that's fantastic. So
and there's a reason it costs a little more than a
Okay.
soda or other
Yep.
things, right? So it's also because sometimes I think we get trained to bottom line mentality. Well, what's the cheapest, right? Like what's the least expensive?
Mhm.
Therefore, that's the most valuable. And we have to really break that programming and remember it isn't what costs the less on the front end, it's what costs the most on the back end, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it might be inexpensive to grab that soda with your meal, but later on, you're not going to have
Mhm.
a positive benefit from that. And so
Yeah.
you might have to pay with an antacid pill or something like this. And even the antacid pill then isn't going to the root cause, right?
Yes.
So you might be
Oh,
perpetuating a cycle.
yeah.
And you were about to move us on to something else. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say before I move on to something else, just to say that there's, money is one way to look at a cost, but the other costs are you talked about our liver and how it's a filter and it uses a ton of energy. So, we don't have an energy meter on ourselves to see what's happening there. But, sometimes if you have a food or a drink that's, higher toxicity or harder for your body to digest and the liver has to work harder, it zaps your energy. So that there's a cost associated with that. So it's not dollars, but it is a cost in your life and how you're living. Okay. So that's a little side note on all
I
that.
love
But
that. I love that the way you frame that makes so much sense.
yeah. Okay. So let's hear about what you mentioned that you've got this free gift on your website. So let's hear about that.
Yeah, sure. So we have our DIY guide. So let's say you're new to kombucha or you've been doing it for a while or you've just heard of it today. We have a DIY guide that's going to break down step by step how to do the process. We also send 5 emails, 1 email a day that will break down different aspects of kombucha. So whether that's the health benefits or the nutrients present or the process involved, we make it super easy and approachable. You'll come to the Kombucha Camp website and Jane's going to provide a link for that. And
Excellent.
once you sign up, you'll be able to download that guide immediately. And the reason I say, even if you're someone who's been brewing kombucha for a while, we develop some tips and tricks that make it super easy for folks. So you might actually learn a new process or get a different perspective just by reading our information. So I hope
Mhm.
you'll come and check that out and start to learn more about it. Even if you just start by drinking it from the store, that information is still going to help you have a better understanding of how kombucha can fit into your lifestyle.
Fantastic. So I shared the link in the chat, but I'll also put it in the show notes so people can get it or in the description. And so what else is going on with your kombucha camp? I love it. Kombucha with a K and camp with a K. Kombucha camp. What's happening with kombucha camp these days?
Yeah, so well, we've got a new course launching called Kombucha Fundamentals. In case you couldn't tell, I know not everyone can see me, but I'm sure you can hear. I'm a fun personality, so I'm really infusing that vibrancy and energy into teaching, again, all of this sort of really basic information, but it's also a lot of information if you're new to fermentation, if you're new to kombucha, because again, it's like a cross between a pet and a plant. And so you kind of have to be ready to invite it into your life as there's some specific care instructions. Now, it's not going to come slither into bed with you. But it is something that is going to live on your counter, and how do you interact with it, and what's the best way to do that? And I really see kombucha as a gateway into. Right, it's not an end point; it's a starting point for really incorporating more fermented foods in our diet. We want that diversity in our gut microbiome, and so that's what's been taking a lot of my time these days. I'm super excited to share this course with everybody. It's the culmination of 20 years of information and whatnot. And
Mhm.
so Jane has a link for that as
Yep.
well for everyone to check it out. Um, let's see what else. Well, okay, so as KBI, Kombucha Brewers International, where I'm the president, we've been engaging in a Protect Raw Kombucha campaign. And so there's some, again, outdated laws from Prohibition that would classify kombucha as a beer based on the slight amount of alcohol content it has, which is not intoxicating and does not have a negative effect on the liver. But because those laws were written so tightly over 100 years ago, we're working to update that here in the United States. In Canada, some provinces already have a higher tolerance around 1.1, and that's what we're looking for, just something that's very similar
Mhm.
to our neighbors in the north.
Yes, I think here, I mean, it's sold in supermarkets. So, and around here, in my province, supermarkets don't sell alcohol, so it must meet the requirements there. So that's interesting. I didn't realize there was any alcohol in it, and it's not
Well, sure. So
anything to be concerned about.
yeah, no, let me offer some context there. So all
Okay.
fermented foods create alcohol.
Okay,
Alcohol,
through the
anything
process.
that has yeast, alcohol is antimicrobial. Right? So
Mhm.
the alcohol present, it's also medicinal. So the alcohol present in your fermented foods, and again, like we're not getting drunk off of sauerkraut. You can't get drunk off of
Bread.
kombucha, right? Bread. What's happening is it's preventing mold and other pathogens from trying to colonize. And so, and then as a medicinal effect, it thins the blood. It makes it easier for you to absorb those nutrients, and it naturally relaxes. And so, when we know, of course, that stress is the cause of all dis-ease, it makes sense then that we would have this tiny bit of medicine in there that's going to help us to absorb
Mhm.
those nutrients. Now, that said, all producers who are doing a raw and pasteurized kombucha are listing on the label that there's alcohol present. So, again, we advocate for transparency. We want consumers to make that informed decision. But that's also why we sometimes see these pasteurized or from concentrate products, is because then they can say there's no alcohol present.
Okay. Now, is there anyone that shouldn't have kombucha? Like, are there any
Great question.
contraindications?
Yeah, the biggest contraindication is histamine allergy, right? So histamine allergy is indicative of someone whose gut is still really out of balance and needs some work, some
Mhm.
other types of solutions before they can incorporate fermented foods. Because the reality is human beings have been consuming fermented foods since the dawn of time, right? We didn't have refrigerators, and so we had to preserve our foods naturally, and we did that with the help of our microbial buddies. Um, People always ask, how about pregnant women or children? Can they consume it? And the short answer is yes. If your body enjoys it, we call this trust your gut. That's where you listen to your body and your feedback loops. It can have a lot of benefit. Now, that said, I have also known pregnant women who loved kombucha, got pregnant, smelled it. It was a little too much for them. That's their body saying, not for me right now. So,
Yeah.
again, it's listening to your body at that time to understand if it's right for you. But it can help with, the nausea. With it has the B vitamins. It helps with the migraines. It helps with digestion and keeping everything moving. And of course, it's
Mhm.
passing on nutrients to the fetus. And then children absolutely love kombucha because they haven't had enough time to realize, to coat their tongues with sugar sodas. And so it's interesting because the parent will be like, "Oh, they won't like that," and then they have it, and the kid likes it. And again, I think it's just, they haven't had time to learn not to like it, so to speak.
Yes. That what you talked about there, monitor your own body. But that goes with
Yes.
any food or any drink. Notice when you have it, like, how do you feel afterwards? How do you sleep afterwards? How's your digestion afterwards? All those things, we're all an experiment of one, right? So what you said there is just so on point. All right. One last question. Well, actually, before I ask the last question, is there anything we haven't covered that you want to share with the audience first?
I just say give it a try. It's fun. Your first sip of coffee probably didn't taste delicious either. And neither did your first sip of beer or wine or scotch, but you grew to enjoy them because of how they made you feel. So
Mhm.
kombucha is going to do the same. So many people have come, like, tried it and like, I don't think I like this. Circle back around and like, hey, actually, can I get another little try of this?
Oh,
Because
that's
their
fun.
body starts to say, hey, this actually has something I really like. And so when we listen to that and trust your gut isn't trust your taste buds, because we know there's a lot of tricky chemicals out there, and candida overgrowth can encourage us to eat products that are good for them but not good for us. So it is that closing the feedback loop you were talking about, which is how does it make you feel on the other end, not just up front, because that is what's going to help you understand all the foods you're consuming and what
Mhm.
kinds of reactions you might have to them. An example from my life is if I have fast food, which is in canola oil or some sort of seed oil, I always have a runny nose as a result, or I'll have a little ha 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 in my throat. And so
Yeah.
these are just little signs. So again, we can't always eat perfectly all the time, whatever that means. But that said, observing how those things impact your body will help you to moderate the amount you're consuming. So that way it's in
Yeah.
balance as opposed to out of balance.
Helps motivate people. And when you realize that, okay, that little, runny nose or the in your throat or the joint pain or whatever you've got, those are signs that your body is giving you that it's, not sitting so well. So it can help motivate people to make different choices down the road. And we all know, alcohol is not the best for us. So this can be a substitute that's fun and helpful as well. Okay, my last question, I always ask the guest this question. What is the one thing someone could do today to improve their health?
Well, I have to say, drink kombucha, because
Yes, of course.
if you swap your soda, your energy drink, even your coffee. Look, I love coffee too, but I also know if I overconsume it, I'm even more tired than the little boost I might get out of the caffeine, because it just drains and depletes other aspects of our being. And so just for 30 days, don't change anything else in your diet. Grab that kombucha, just a little bit, 4 ounces, 8 ounces in the morning on an empty stomach, then drink it throughout the day if you feel like you crave it. Put it in water if you want to make it last longer, right? Because we need to flush anyway. So just give it a try and see what happens. We have a little sign up for a 30-day kombucha challenge if you want some support via email. That's on the Kombucha Kamp website. And let us know how it makes you feel. We want to know what you observed out of that process.
Fantastic. I love it. And I'm not surprised that that's what you said. So people can find you at your website, which is kombuchakamp.com.
Kamp with a K.
Kamp with a K.
Clever.
Yep. And you're on Facebook and Instagram and all these other, and I'll share all your where people can find you. But you're as on there as at Kombucha Kamp, right?
Correct. At Kombucha Kamp. Yes.
Perfect. And I also shared the link for your Kombucha Fundamentals course. Yay. And that's very exciting. So that's just a do on your own kind of course, right?
Yes. So once the course launches October 10th. And on that day, every lesson will be available to you. So if you're a little more advanced than just the beginner, you might jump right to flavoring, or you might jump to, some of the troubleshooting aspects. New people, they might want to go through every lesson in order. We also have one on deciphering labels, where we sort of point out some of that language and things. So if you're loving kombucha from the store and just want to better understand what you're having, that's in there as well. Plus, of course, history, health benefits, legends, all kinds of great stuff. Our book was 400 pages, is 400 pages. So you can imagine the course is going to be full of handouts and things to make it super easy for you to do on your own. So I hope you'll check it out.
Perfect. We didn't actually talk about flavors. I just realized that, but you mentioned tons of these fun flavors. Just ream off a few.
Yeah, sure. So we have 260 flavor inspirations in the book. We always like to pair a fruit and a spice, but some of my favorite ones, like right now, elderflower lemon is one of my favorites for the summer. It has a nice dry champagne-like flavor that's really lovely. I also do summer breeze, which is chamomile lavender. My husband's flavor is pink lemonade, which is strawberry, lemon, and thyme. And so I say go to your farmer's market. What's in season? What herbs can you pair with it? Because remember, Mother Nature has already given us so many nutrients and vitamins in our food that when we infuse it into the kombucha, because it's such a powerful extractor, being a vinegar ferment, all of that's going to get passed on to you. So the more you know about herbalism, or, medicinal mushrooms, or different things that can help support your body, you can add some of that to your brew and get these unique, delicious flavors that also have that additional benefit of supporting your health in a unique way.
So interesting. And it's just little surprises then every time you make a batch. So I love that. Hanna, this has been so fun. You're so fun. And your fundamentals course, I'm sure will be fun too. So thank you so much for being on Wellness by Design today and for sharing all this knowledge you have on kombucha with our audience. And it sounds like a really fun drink. I've had it before, and you're inspiring me to have it some more. And I've never thought about having it on an empty stomach in the morning. So that's something I'm going to give a try. So thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you, Jane.
Take care, everyone. And thanks for joining me, whether you're watching live or on the replay or listening to the podcast. Thank you so much. And let us know what you thought. If you got any questions, leave a comment. Love to hear from you. Take care. Bye.